D&D's overrated. Blades in the Dark is better.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Scheduling Conflicts. This is the only premium show, because there's no technical definition of premium, that runs when other shows do not. I have to change your guys' names and the thing. That didn't save for some reason, which I love, so let me do that really quick. While the two of you get ready to introduce your characters. So, for those of you who don't know, this is normally when you would tune in to the Party Makes Things Worse. The Party Makes Things Worse is our actual play stream, where right now we are playing Dungeons & Dragons and going through a campaign called The Song of the Reliquary, taking place in the fantasy world of Prospect, which we came up with live on one of our other streams, DM Writer's Room. Now, what you are watching right now seems awfully similar to what I have just described, but is of course entirely different and a luxury product, a phrase which means nothing in this context. So, on Scheduling Conflicts, we play random, almost fully improvised games in response to another of our games getting canceled. In this case, The Party Makes Things Worse ran into a little bit of a scheduling snafu, and now we must try to pick up the pieces. My camera's being a little bastard. Let me turn that off and on again really quick. How about you just work, camera? Thank you so much.
He's returned.
So today we are going to be playing in the Blades in the Dark system, because it's been on our minds, and we are still going to be in the world of Prospect, but we are going to be going to a time and a place that most of you will probably be pretty majorly unfamiliar with. We will be heading far into the past, into the Third Age. The current game that we are playing takes place in the Fourth Age. For lack of a better term, the modern world of Prospect, right? Going back and playing this way would be like in the Forgotten Realms, playing before the fall of Netheril. In Critical Role, it would be like playing before the fall of Aor. There is almost always large and cool cataclysms that set up your fantasy world to have fun ruins. And one of the most fun things to do is to say, what was it like when they weren't ruins yet? And we are going to be doing just that. We are going to be joining Stefan and Spencer's characters as they are ne'er-do-wells, criminals. I don't even know of what sort yet. The two of them have sort of been taking care of that themselves in the world of Prospect during the Third Age. What is the Third Age, you ask? The Third Age is the most high fantasy, magic, and spell crafting, incredible works of armor and weapons are being made. Humanity is starting to really join the field with any other groups that have risen in this time, and the warships and the worship of the gods is also at sort of its pinnacle at this time. We will be joining the players in the Arcane Empire, this massive, sprawling empire that once occupied the entire eastern part of the continent of Prospect. We know that someday their hubris or mistakes will point them in the truly wrong direction, and they will end up destroying not just themselves, but essentially killing every high-level spellcaster in the world in a single evening of unfortunate luck and poor planning. But that has not happened yet. In this world, they are at the height, the pinnacle of their power. There is pretty much no long-standing war or conflicts on the continent that we are currently on in the world of Prospect, because the Arcane Empire's totality is a little too major. The only great conflict in recent memory was at the end of the Second Age, now some 1,000 to 2,000 years ago, when the Deathwoken Primacy was wiped off the map by a tentative alliance that still somewhat burns in the heart of its people to this day. But rumor has it that small, squabbling, clenching conflicts have appeared in other parts of the world. It's just that people don't talk about them anymore. They no longer fly high banners and speak of their victories against other nations, instead taking care of things quietly, discreetly, trying to maintain a tenuous peace that has now stood for a very long time. But we're not talking about those people. We're not talking about great heroes trying to maintain fragile peace. No. We are talking about a band, a small band, two-man band of opportunists, scoundrels, thieves, murderers, who can say, who are trying to make the best of a situation that they simply are not in control of. So, I will ask, would you guys like for me to introduce the city first, or would you like to introduce your characters first?
I'll do my character first.
All right, so we are going to start by meeting our characters and then establishing a little bit about our gang here. So to give you the super quick rundown, Blades in the Dark is kind of like a heist game where you pretty much instantly dive into the action with very little preamble, and most things are done through flashbacks and mechanics that let you take on stress to keep going, maybe when logically your character should be dead or cornered. And we are just going to have to see how that all works out. The common advice given is to play your character like you would drive a stolen car. Be not precious in these idle hours. All right, Spencer, go ahead and introduce Rickon Veros. Or Rickon Veros?
Rickon Veros. Rickon is a man in his late 30s or really early 40s. It's hard to tell. He has an oversized beard and a completely shaved head. The most striking feature that you see looking at Rickon is a completely curved nose. Must have been broken 6 or 7 times easily to get that sort of rough angular shape in several locations. Besides that, he has a light white scar running down on the outside of his right eye. He is big. Not muscular, not incredibly tall, but big. He just, when people see him, they make a wide berth around him. His outfit is of the Guardians. And in this city, it is a more militaristic uniform, so shoulder pads, epaulettes, in a white and blue style. But if you look closely, you see that it's a few years out of date. It's not super easy to pick up on, but if you look for more than a minute and you know what you're looking for, you're gonna see it. That is my character, Rickon Veros.
So Rickon Veros sort of masquerades as a member of the Guardians. And I will say particularly, if he is masquerading as a member of the actual militant guard arm of the Guardians in the city, he is pretending to be a member of the Skywatch.
And he was. He didn't steal the uniform. He just isn't a member anymore.
So we see Rickon Veros, somebody a little bit aging out of the normal range for thieves, in this white and blue uniform, all epaulets and medals, but a little out of date, but thankfully not so much yet that it could cause a disturbance. Stefan, introduce us to your naming convention continues, Kerthunk.
Yeah. So I guess
You think
Kerthunk
my
is
world's
probably...
a joke, Stefan?
It's an alias. It's a code name.
No, his alias is Squash Man.
Fear the Squash Man. Spray painted on the side of a building, the Squash Man cometh. Alright, tell us about Kerthunk.
Alright, so he's probably like in his late 20s, but looks a little bit more in his late 30s, and has a bit of a gaunt and ill look from the various radiation happening, but he's still got this fierceness to his eyes. And mostly he spends his time kind of with this saunter going around, and he's got this huge patchwork robe with it's probably sort of a bathrobe and an overcoat that had been sewn together, and it has all these extra pockets on it and coils of rope around it, kind of around the torso, some on his arms, and a couple just dangling from the back of it. And he's just he was initially a scrapper and would take things apart, wreckage and salvage and stuff, to go sell. And at least as long as it's already been destroyed. And sometimes he has to destroy it first and then salvage it, but that's kind of just his general MO of finding stuff to sell to other people.
So quite the odd couple as we see the two of them in separate scenes. Kerthunk in this sort of strange gathered together cobbled outfit of bits and pieces and bobs from other items that he has either genuinely salvaged or sabotaged and then salvaged. And I will ask, what kind of operation are Rickon and Kerthunk members of? You are the sole 2 members of a new and burgeoning group, and I need to know what kind of group it is.
I mean, it's sad to say, Assassins. We kill people for money.
There we go, assassins. I like it. Okay, so you guys are kicking off as assassins. That's a huge swing. I love it. That's a rare one. So, I'm going to ask you to get a little bit more in depth with what getting set up for a gig for the two of you looks like. And I'm going to remind you in the audience of what Blades in the Dark is like when you are setting up. So, I'm going to introduce where we are. You two are going to introduce your hideout, and I don't know where that is. You are going to have to sort of decide in the moment. I have some light prompts if you need them. And then the job, what you are here to do, is completely up to the two of you. You are going to tell me who your target is in the city, and we are going to go from there as I introduce some of the details, most of which we already have, some of which we are going to be discovering live in the moment. You are going to do maybe one or two little preparatory things, and then we are immediately going to be diving in as I make the engagement roll to see what situation we start in, and then the two of you respond with action after action, trying to overcome the obstacles that come up in that time. Now, we are going to be using Roll20 just a little bit, mainly because one of the systems in Blades in the Dark that you might be familiar with is called the clocks. You use clocks to keep track of ongoing situations, things like guards being alerted, or the city constables, in this case the Skywatch, being called, because you don't want those things to happen randomly or at the first failure. And so we will draw 4, 6, or 8 segment clocks to sort of track those things. 8s are very rare. 4 is far more common. So, we begin in the city of Kaynora. It is far, far to the east of this continent that we have spent time on while playing other characters. Past the mountains that the city of Bastion is just beginning to be constructed on the slopes of, far across a wide and expanding desert that the Arcane Empire originally called its home to keep the rest of the world safe, as magic leached out of their bodies and spell casting and into the world, threatening ecosystems, threatening people and fellows. They fled to the desert, or it was a desert. Now, the massive eastern part of the continent, which in the modern age of Prospect in the distant future is literally not there. Whatever cataclysm took out the Empire took a good chunk of the continent with it. What was once desert now grows artificial, a lush, verdant, near perfect green that covers the landscape and changes as it gets closer to certain towers and cities to suit the taste of the archmages that live there. The city of Kaynora is a major stop on the massive railway that connects the many cities of the Arcane Empire. Kaynora is the hub of crystal refinement. One of the recent ways that mages of all sorts are allowed to set roots and live in the same city for many years instead of constantly moving around to keep themselves from killing the land is they have found ways to distill that excess radiative energy into this solid crystalline state that makes the majority of the fuel for a good half of what runs here in the Arcane Empire, and Kaynora is where those crystals are refined. This also makes it a powerful trade hub. Ships come and go, delivering things, picking up crystals and sending them to other parts of the world, and being able to refuel every time they stop with the same crystals that the city refines and that those ships travel with. But it does have its consequences. The sky is forever tinged a light green color. A unfortunate or fortunate byproduct, depending on how much you wonder about the side effects versus marveling at the optical beauty of the sort of emerald sky that sits above the city. Certainly rumors have spread that the radiant magic leaching into the soil of Kaynora is too much even for this place to handle. For the Guardians, who protect it and make sure that its civics stay running to be able to keep a hold of, their thin numbers have resulted in a stark military version of the guards, janitors, street cleaners, and other roles that the Guardians normally fill. And rumors abound that disappearances are a little bit more common in Kaynora. A man out late drunk is more likely than most to just vanish. Maybe this is them being forcefully recruited onto ships coming or going. Maybe it's people trying to start a new life, but nobody knows the answer to that question. All they know is that every once in a while, people go missing, and you simply never hear from them again. Maybe a few do return, but they are few and they are far between. So, Rickon, and does Kerthunk go by Kerr? Does he go by Thunk?
Thunk.
Kerthunk. Rickon, Kerthunk, as you have had some time to build up a little bit of a reputation in Kaenora, you have a small but ironclad control over a tiny sequestered corner of this massive city. If you're looking for scale, we need to break a little bit out of our medieval world shackles of thinking that a great city will have 50 to 100,000 people in it. Kaenora is home to about 1.2 million people. It is massive and kept alive by magically infused farms that produce crops all the year long, no matter the season. The streets and sewers are magically cleaned and maintained. All of the limitations that we suffer from with large concentrations of population are much diminished by the terrible powers that the Arcane Empire can bring to bear for things as simple as waste management. Things that in the modern day world of Prospect would change the lives of everyone alive are used for mundane, civic, and communal tasks here. What corner of the city have you two managed to seize control of and to start running assassinations out of? You are knives for hire, going out in the night to assassinate archmages, deadly, high-level casters that make up the aristocracy of the Arcane Empire.
I think there was an old watchtower that is towards the middle of the city, all things considered, but has long been abandoned and has been left in a state of disrepair. But Rickon was sent there during one of his missions, I suppose, to make sure that it was properly cleared out. And he marked down that it had been cleared out, locked it all down, but kept the keys to that tower after chaining it all together. And after his discharge from the Guardians, kept those keys and now uses it as a nice hideout.
Okay, if that is where we are, then I will ask Kerthunk, how do you go about finding new targets? What is the method? How do Rickon and Kerthunk get new jobs?
I imagine maybe there's like some sort of like underground popularity contest for the archmages, and the ones that are like the most notorious get like higher and higher like marks there. And so like the most popular ones are the ones that like our assassins group will usually like go after, because it's like, oh, they're finally like ripe for harvesting kind of thing. So like the more the like the archmages like are like creating spells in the area or doing other kind of like social investments or popularity kind of like publicist kind of things, I guess we'll make them like higher targets for us.
So
because the other ones would be willing to pay.
In the city of Kaenora, it is so common for bounties worth such ludicrous volumes of money to be taken out by every archmage on every other archmage that it is created to what is often called the Assassin's Pool, a consolidated bounty board run by the criminals of the city that basically just compiles the dozens of bounties that are taken out on every single major member of the magical aristocracy of this city and combines it together so that you can collect these massive lump sums by going after basically any incredibly powerful and well-known archmage. I imagine that very often you will see agents of the archmages attending these sort of large bacchanals of the underbelly of the city to keep track on how worried their masters need to be at any given moment, and often to get into bidding wars. The easiest way for the person at number one to get off of number one is to put a few million gold on one of the others. There is no more simple way to put yourself down on the list than to put somebody else up at the top of it. So, all that being what it is, my eye just started to itch really bad. The two of you have gotten ready in some small way for a new job that is just about to start. I will ask you, tell me a little bit about where this job came from and about who you are going after today.
We don't have a patron that sort of gets the main information to us. We also don't have a seat at the underground. We have to get information trickled down through the actual underground to information brokers, to people we're friendly with that are closer to the underground, who will tell us about it because they're not wanting to go after it themselves. We are a fairly new crew, all things considered. So my connection is Mercy, a cold killer. Mercy is a member of a larger group that takes on pretty high-profile jobs. So the ones that are lower profile, I get word from her about, and we can pick those up.
All right. We cut right in on one of these scenes. We see Rickon in full uniform, walking down the street with a confident, high-headed air, moving through. People sort of part around you. Every now and again, another small group of guardians, either those in the civic sectors, in different colors of outfits, usually some kind of sash, something that is almost similar to like a karate gi, this very uniform style of clothing that different colors or different knots of the belt that they wear will tell you what their role is in the city, so they can be identified at a glance. That makes members of the Skywatch stand out all the more. In full military uniforms, they break from the norm that the other Guardians wear and often are sort of participating in as they make their way around. So it is rare, but it does happen occasionally on these walks, Rickon, that you need to give a small nod to some other member wearing a Skywatch uniform, or maybe a salute in the rare moments where you run into somebody who should not be where you are, certainly, but it does happen every once in a while. You are deep in what fundamentally should be enemy gang territory, but Rickon and Kerthunk are blessed by the anonymity that comes with not being particularly important, and so you can pretty much go anywhere you want. You know where you are meeting up with Mercy. It is one of her usual spots. I will ask you, where are you meeting up? And does the rest of Mercy's gang know that she passes on the worst jobs to Rickon and Kerthunk? Or is this a private matter?
This is a private matter, and I do have to pay, some small stipend amount for the jobs that I get.
Yeah, in the world of Blades in the Dark, we only care about coin, which is a considerable volume of money. The kind of smaller bribery level that Rickon is talking about is hand-waved. One of my favorite things about Blades in the Dark. You can just say, no, I always have to pay. It's not that much, but it's enough to be annoying. It's enough that we then do have to do the job.
And that's sort of the issue. Like, once I get the information, kind of is always a yes, I'm going to go do it.
Okay, so I will ask then, as you walk up and open a door and head inside, what does the sign over the top of the door say as you make your way inside the place that you meet up with Mercy, this cold-blooded killer?
It is the Viper's Fang. It's a bar.
You walk into the Viper's Fang. It is a bar that is honestly kind of on trend right now. Their major claim to fame being that they actually do have sort of in the, I'm thinking of fugu, right? Eating this sort of highly dangerous sushi-like thing. One of the very popular cocktails at the Viper's Fang actually has a decent amount of venom in it. Just enough to make your mouth go numb and to make your lips tingle. Not enough to cause any long-term damage, although rumor has it that the drunks who come here a little too often will start to develop sores on the insides of their mouth as they poison themselves a little too much than the way that normal men who go to bars every night do. As you walk in, you see the bartender keeping glasses clean and looking around this sort of dimly lit place. You see that there are blue flames sort of sputtering out of small torches on the walls, this place having adapted from candles to the more modern arcanotech light that is ever more popular in the city as time goes by. You can see that there is a low rolling, almost steam or mist coming off of the wall behind the bartender, and you know that the entire back wall is basically magically refrigerated, and that temperature differential basically just pours clouds into the floor of the bar. And so you are kind of stepping past, and a little trail of moisture is being left behind you as you make your way through and go over to a corner booth where Mercy is almost always ready to speak to you. As you approach, you see that she is speaking to somebody in an outfit very similar to her own. She is constantly in full leathers with a blade. She, in Blades in the Dark terms, is always wearing her heavy kit and is kind of there as an intimidating factor, and so is this other person. And as you walk up, her eyes just dart over to you, and you know immediately that you need to be somewhere else for about 4 seconds while she finishes up this business before you can approach her openly.
Yeah, Rickon flashes a wink and walks up to the bar.
You walk up to the bar as the tender sort of looks over at you, and then over at where Mercy is and goes, "Ooh, one of those nights, eh?" And goes back to cleaning a glass. He hands you something free that doesn't have any alcohol in it to make you not look suspicious. You not get back in a bar that is an odd mix of people that are a little too local, people that are looking for the underbelly of the city, and tourists who heard about this cool Viper drink that they can drink and are going to certainly be mugged later if they have too much.
Yeah.
Just a few moments later, you see that other person wearing heavy leathers make their way out of the door, and Mercy waves you over to her table.
I flip the cup upside down, walk over.
Rickon, I did get a couple of Mercy's getting killed a couple months back, so I want to just stick to the bar here, and I'll keep an eye on things. Whistle if you need me.
Try the Viper's drop. I hear it's absolutely disgusting.
That'll be an experience indeed. I'll give it a go.
Ricky,
you
make your way over as Kerthunk sort of artfully bends their way around the corner of the wall. Kerthunk, go ahead and make me what is called just a fortune roll. Go ahead and just roll me, we're gonna make a roll without any consequences. I'm looking at the list of potential skills here, and none of them are particularly good for you to be rolling. Which of the options, sort of in finesse, right, would obviously be best, but you could try something else?
Maybe prowl. Like, I'm just taking, like, all the ropes and sort of just putting them over me like a hood, and they kind of just sag down, and I kind of don't look too, like, important, just very strange.
All right, so for prowl, you can go ahead and roll just one die and let me know what the result is.
That was a 2.
A 2. All right, Rickon, you make your way up and begin having this conversation with Mercy. As you sit down, she goes, "Well, you've been certainly drawing a little bit of attention to yourself lately. Good to hear that."
Hard not to.
Yeah, of course. Wherever it is that you keep getting these mysterious contracts. And she reaches down below the table and, like, taps a folder to be straight. And fix itself in the position. She goes, "You've got to let me know," and slides it across the table to you as you slide a painfully heavy bag of coin over her way. She takes it and goes, "Oh, must have dropped this," sets it down in her own bag, and then goes, "And just, are you still working with what's his name? Bam Smash?"
Kerthunk.
"Yeah, you still working with him?"
On occasion.
"He's more trouble than he's worth." And just at that, you hear Kerthunk begin to cough and sputter and hear a glass shatter as he tries the Viper's drop and almost immediately passes out from the foul, acrid flavor. She bends around to the side and goes, "Yeah, I'm sure the two of you rarely see each other these days. Well, here's the facts." And she slides this sheet over to you. As you, well, I will ask, is this the kind of thing, do you open this here and ask for some details, or do you just pick up the folder and go take care of this elsewhere?
She will share details if a job is particularly hairy, but otherwise he grabs it and goes. He does not want either of their covers to be blown here.
All right, so if only if it had some particularly terrible aspect would she chime in. All right, I think that's fair enough. I will say then, she gives you, for a moment you are about to stand up with no word from her, and then she clears her throat and goes, oh, actually, mate, and stands up as if to say one more thing, like she is going to lead you to the door. She goes, the hit for this, Arcanus Balmore. He's working on something pretty major. We think that's part of why people want him dead. Rumor has it that there's someone in the city who might be willing to buy him if you could pick those up on your way, killing the man. Just a rumor, though. And she opens the door as you step outside.
I hit her with a quick salute.
For sure. And if you wanted to say anything, you could obviously turn around and pipe up as you sort of dip out of the door.
And I'm sure this is the last job I'm ever going to need from you, so see you around.
Of course. And you turn out of the door as Kerthunk, you like cough and misty eye your way out into the sort of, I assume still fairly bright sun. If you want to go to a bar with nobody else there, you go at 7 a.m.
Yeah, I get up to go, like, after having, like, slid off the bar stool, and I, like, get tugged, and I have to unravel the ropes that had, like, fallen around the bar stool slowly, and then dropping them down again, just, like, still inebriated, until eventually I get them all, put them over my shoulder, and then stumble quickly after Rickton.
And with that, we smash cut over to the watchtower. I'm going to ask each of you to describe one thing that we see as we look around inside this assassin's hideout, where the two of you deal in death to make your coin, as you get ready to lay out the file folder in front of you and make a plan on how Arcanist Bowmore will not see tomorrow's dawn.
I think one of the entryways, like, there's going to be like a big metal plate, but it's got like a bend in it, so it looks like it's kind of like almost flush to there, but if you go around that little bend and up, that's one like secret way of getting in. That looks like it's like just like completely like against the thing, but kind of obscured from like normal vision.
So the doors of the watchtower still look to have long been sealed shut and left so, but you at some point made this sort of faux panel with a corner bent that can be shifted and give somebody just enough space to swing in through one of basically the side walls of the building and tuck through on the other side. I imagine during the winter there is a blanket hung up on the other side, just like magneted to the wall, so that you will not have this sort of perpetual draft. Rickon, what's one other thing about your hideout?
It's a pretty big location, all things considered. It's a watchtower, but it was also sort of a barracks location for a unit of troops to stay in. All along the outside, though, it is completely dilapidated. There's paint on the walls, spray paint. There's like holes in the exterior wall that people could crawl through, but that leads to another wall that's like cemented up. So it looks like garbage, like a massive building that has been left to the dogs. But on the inside, it's actually well tended to. We've kept it up. We've repaired the places we need repaired, and assuming that one day our crew will be larger, it's ready to host those people.
So it is a well-prepared interior with a well-disguised exterior. All right, good to know. As you make your way into this very clandestine little fortress of yours, you begin to lay out papers and pictures and all kinds of bits and bobs, the information that you pay handsomely for Mercy to deliver to you. You see a couple of pieces of information. Arcanist Bowmore is a researcher. He is one of many people that is in basically the R&D department of the entire city of Kenora. Kenora is mostly known as a export city that has things to sell and a safe skydock and relatively safe roads that you can travel along to get here and get other places. It is not known for its great and fantastic inventions, which in the world of the Arcane Empire makes it kind of unsightly as far as places to live goes. There is no new and exciting scholarship coming out of this place. Arcanist Bowmore is one of the people trying to change that, ever pushing the boundaries of magic with a desperation and hunger that the other cities do not need to bother with. They already have reputation and resources. People like Bowmore need to push a lot harder to get the same attention. The Arcanist is a noble of decent rank. He has a small manor with a healthy group of servants that attend to his needs and help him with his research to some extent. It seems as if Bowmore has a small circle of confidants and people that he knows very well. Bowmore is not married, has no children, and records of his lineage trace back to other cities in the Empire. It would appear he came here either running from something, or to start something new. Bowmore does a lot of his work, of course, in this city's Arcaneum, the closest thing it has to a public university where those born with or who learn arcane talents can come to know them.
Do we have any names on the small circle of confidants?
Do you have any names on the small circle of confidants? Yeah, especially because this is already something that you have to sort of pay to get a decent chunk of the information about. You see that... Let me take a look here. There are two names that quickly come across your dash here as either the closest, one of them because they are particularly close, and the other because it seems like they would be very easy to lean on. The Arcanist is extremely close with a co-worker, another higher ranking member of nobility named Stavril Slain. Stavril Slain is not an archivist. He is a mage, which means he is just below being an archmage. From there, it would be a long journey into the sort of actual higher nobility, but he is pretty much near the top of what somebody who tomorrow decided to start learning the arcane arts could get to his level. It would take them many decades to do so. But Stavril is relatively young and relatively well practiced, and a very good friend of Bowmore's. The two of them are apparently quite thick as thieves. The other is Roth Lomond. Roth and Bowmore are seen together quite frequently, but they are seen arguing in public just as often, and apparently have had on a few occasions what seems to be small scuffles, maybe to the point of being sort of wizards' duels, broken up by the Guardians. The two of them seem to have a very strange, strained, forced relationship. So those are the two that you discover very quickly. One that seems easy to break into but doesn't hold a lot of trust, and the other one seems pretty ironclad, but you cannot imagine there is much that Stavril Slain does not have access to.
All right. What are you thinking? I think going after one of them would be easiest to get information. We could maybe sell what we find to Roth Lomond after gathering it, so we might be able to strong arm him and then utilize him as a contact. Stavril, that's someone we'd have to kill after we get information from him, because he'd come after us. So Roth is safer and pays us potentially. Stavril is dangerous, but will give us more information.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine the Rothus guy, maybe he has his own kind of like brewing ideas about getting at this guy too, so he could even provide information that way that could lead us down the keen path.
And with that, I will ask, it sounds like our initial engagement here will be securing Roth Lomond and specifically getting information out of him. Now I'm going to ask you for your detail, which is is this man getting are you planning to grab him off the street? Are you planning to lean on a vice of his? What is the detail that you learned that gives you an opening on Roth?
I think the detail we learned is that he is a rival to Beaumont, knowing that we're going to leverage the potential knowledge we have to get him on our side. So we're going to say it's a vice, essentially. We're leaning on his vice of pride, ego, ascendancy, whatever, to get him to give us information. In turn, we will sell him what he might be looking for.
And so, we are going to make our engagement roll here to see in what situation you find Roth, as it sounds like you're going to go for a very social approach for this band of assassins, 2 cutters making up their number. You get 1 die just for sheer luck, just because you even tried. Is this operation particularly bold or daring? I don't think so yet. I think we have another one to make very shortly. However, is this overly complex or contingent on too many factors? No. You have the information and you are jumping into the middle of it. I think it makes perfect sense. The plan's detail does expose a vulnerability of the target, so I'm going to add 1 die for that. And he's not particularly strong against that approach, so I am not going to take 1 away. And finally, I don't think we roped in any friends or contacts.
No.
But no enemies or rivals otherwise have been involved. And so I'm going to make your engagement roll, and we will see in what situation our party finds themselves getting involved. Okay. We see you all outside of the Arcaneum. You are sort of leaning up against the outside of a building, the both of you. Rickon, you standing a little bit more to the front. Kurthunk, you sort of crept towards the shadows a little bit more, having less of a good reason to be here. On the other side of the wall, Rickon, there is a window just above your head, and you can hear loud shouting. And you know that the Arcaneum's conference hall is on the other side. And you knew that today Roth was going to be presenting some findings. And you have heard this meeting go extremely sour. Now, that could be good or bad for you. It means Roth is going to be punchy and looking for new opportunities, but it also means that he is going to be bitter and maybe feeling a little vindictive as you attempt to corner him. As that situation is bubbling up behind you and we find the 2 of you, I'm going to pass things over to you. This is Blades in the Dark, so just start pretending that you have a plan and narrating like the next action. And remember, at any moment, if you run into an obstacle, your character's already thought of it. You can flash back to another moment. You can use one of your skills to try to get out of the way, pulling the perfect piece of equipment out of your clothes. You have a plan already. We just don't know what it is yet. So I will ask, which of the 2 of you starts the action as you hear, with a loud, like, slamming of a hand on a table, somebody go, all right, we are dismissed for 2 hours. We cannot continue this. This is unacceptable. And doors slam and grumbling and shouting. That window above you gets slammed so hard that the shutter shakes a little bit in its moorings.
Should we select our load for this encounter? Okay. I've selected 3, light.
I am always going heavy.
All right.
Hell yeah.
Part of why Kurthunk is hiding in the shadows. Rickon, you are in your uniform. Whatever you have hidden is barely hidden beneath layers of fabric. You have nothing else to indicate. Over to your corner, Kurthunk is heavily loaded down with ropes and items of all kinds. If any guard sees Kurthunk, they are immediately going to be very suspicious, perhaps even just afraid.
I So there's the window there, and then is there a main entrance?
Yeah, you look over to the side and you see a large, beautiful set of wooden double doors, this deep, almost black umbral color with a marble facade bending all around it. Moving around you on cobblestones up and down to different parts of the Arcaneum, basically the university, you see groups of students with books in hand. You see professors strolling in long robes, being like trailed by students with questions. You see members of the Skywatch walking far more slowly, nodding to the people of import, and sort of shoulder checking the people that are less important or look a little too suspicious. That's all that's sort of going around you. The building you are standing in front of is quite massive, and you know that it is somewhat labyrinthine in the many labs, rectories, and different areas that it goes to.
Rickon is going to open that main entryway door as he sees people filing out of that room, and he's assuming whoever's speaking is probably walking out last, gathering up their papers. So he is going to wait for that last couple people to file out, and then open the door. And when he sees Roth, he's going to whistle and gesture for him to come over.
You knew what was going to happen today. You've studied the last few times Roth has spoken, and he always stays late to go back over his notes and make notes in the margins about what he should have said and how the conversation went. As the last person cuts out, giving a little bit of an odd look to this member of the Skywatch that is sitting inside of the Arcaneum, you dip around the corner, making your way in. As you see Roth taking furious notes, you can hear the scrape of the quill that he is using, and maybe a few droplets of ink sort of go wide as he is quite angrily taking notes on what seems to have been a very poorly run conversation. As he looks up and you wave, he kind of tilts his head to the side, looking around and then looking back at you. Go ahead and make this is going to be a fortune roll, so no negative consequence. I just want to get a sense for how things sort of kick off. What's the first impression that you manage to give off? Sway is certainly the most direct, but I think command with the wave could also be workable. Did you have something else in mind?
It's gonna have to be command, for sure. So I've got 2 to roll.
I think this is controlled limited. You're in an incredibly safe position. You don't have a great reason for him to come talk to you.
I rolled 2 3s.
2 3s is a fail. So in this case, he looks up at you, looks down at his notes and goes, you can come to my office if you have a question, officer. Is there an investigation or something?
You could say that. More, I'm here to offer you an opportunity.
Oh, what? And Kerthunk, what outside is happening? What is Kerthunk's half of this plan to either persuade or intimidate this man?
I think with the info we've gotten, he's very stressed and probably regularly goes to a specific tea shop to kind of relax and process all of that. So I've brought my own little boiler, I think, and I've just been brewing one of his favorite teas. So I come over, the aroma's wafting as I'm we got you something to refresh you while we talk here.
At this exact same moment, coming around through one of the other doors is Kerthunk, a threat mixed with a gesture of goodwill. He is the carrot and the stick right now. He is clearly heavily armed and armored, but is carrying a pretty little tea set. A little tea tray with a whole little setup. As you sort of set that down and say that, Kerthunk, Rickon, I will let you continue and know that with that, so I will say, if you are trying to assist his next roll, Kerthunk, we could do something like that. Mm-hmm. If not, I think, what stat were you trying to roll? Which of your actions were you trying to roll with that?
It's certainly consort right now, but I think with the tea coming in, Rickon is going to say an opportunity that can either be beneficial or detrimental.
I have a good one. Kerthunk, roll survey to see if you have bought the right tea.
All right. And with the one pip in it, that's just 1d6 then?
Yeah.
Or
You've seen him go into the same shop. And now the question is, were you proficient enough in your watching to get the order right?
And that's a 3.
Which
And
would be terrifying, I gotta say. If these two thugs showed up and they had your favorite drink, not good.
Not great. All right, so with a 3, this is our first sort of earnest fail here on a roll. Now, you remain in controlled limited, so you guys are having minor effects on his mood to relatively low consequences. So if you wanted to, you could in this moment, Kurthunk, try to resist whatever negative effect I'm about to give you by making a resist roll, or you could take on stress to make sure that it's obvious that you've definitely gotten exactly what you'd liked, or you can simply take the fail and things will just start to stretch in a unpleasant direction.
Maybe take the stress for this one. So, do I just do a mark a pip for that, or
Yeah,
do I
so
roll
take
again?
1 point of stress, and I think it's got to be a flashback. I think that as Kurthunk, as we smash back to this moment, we watch a scene where Kurthunk is like spying towards the back, trying to see what Roth gets for this little pretty heavy implication of violence or reward. Can't quite make out the order, and so we see a scene where Kurthunk pays like an urchin a couple of copper pieces. They bump into Roth's leg while he's walking across campus, and his teacup spills out of his hands as he starts to like scream at this random child who apologizes but picks up the cup and lid and runs. And we just watch Kurthunk sip the last like little half an ounce out of the bottom of the cup to get an idea of what it is. And you set down this service with like his favorite tea that he gets after all of these unpleasant meetings. As you, Rickon, slide that threat across the room, go ahead and make a command roll with an additional die.
Ooh. 4, 6, 2.
6, complete success. He looks at you both and goes, and looks at the tea. How can I... What's the opportunity? Apologies, I didn't mean to be rude. I just... So rare to see people from outside the Arcaneum.
Of course. It actually pertains to a rival of yours, by the name of Archivist Beaumore. We are
Of course it has to do with
interested
Beaumore.
interested in collecting something he's been working on. And I have a reason to believe you may be interested in buying that item.
Well, and he sort of looks around. He walks over and shuts the doors, and you see that the window behind him is still open. As he turns around to walk back, he is a little too oblivious to notice it. Not quite the seasoned professional that the two of you are. He sits below it and goes, well, he certainly has been working on something and lording it over me and everyone else's heads. So I have been curious. I've asked a few friends if they knew anybody that could do anything about it. I didn't think that it was quite as out and out as being heard of on the street, but, well, yes. He supposedly has gotten a hold of, I don't know, some old primacy magic. Now, of course, if I could prove that he had it, that would be illegal. Maybe I could do something that way, but I'm a little bit more curious about what it is.
Well, it sounds like we have a potential relationship to form here. We are happy to get that information for you and bring it back to you for a price. First, we would need to have the information you have on his goings-on, where he may be when he may be there, connections he might have, openings,
Right.
if you will. And 2, a bit of coin.
Well, yes, of course. And you see that you've struck a nerve. Not only have you found somebody that he wants to work against, you've also injected enough excitement into it that the thought of hiring somebody to like clandestinely take out his rival makes him feel like a real archmage in one of the major cities. And so you see he starts to like flip through some of his notes and goes, well, thankfully, Beaumore likes to pop into my office enough to tell me about all of his new adventures that I actually do have a pretty good idea of when he's around. And he starts to like hand over a list of when he is there. And as we cut to a couple of very quick scenes of him like negotiating with you all and showing you things. And then we cut to you on another part of the campus of the Arcaneum, and he's like showing and pointing out buildings. And then we cut again to him with a bag of like silver, trying to explain, and you just like shaking your heads and holding your hands inside, until eventually we see him like sweatily counting gold into a bag, clearly some of a very limited supply that he has, and handing over 1 coin worth basically of gold over to you all to work with. What it is that he hands over to you, I don't know. What it is going to do is it's going to boost your engagement roll on the real move. So here's what I'm going to ask. What is the detail you learn about Arcanist Bowmore's goings-on that gives you an opening to not just ice this fool, but also to get at his work?
What do you think, Kerthunk?
And he's got to have like a secret study that he works in, right?
His wizard's tower, of course.
So is what you have the location? Is it like a secret location, or do you just have a way in and everybody knows where Bowmore works?
Yeah. Maybe he's got like a favorite symbol or creature, so like once we get in there, we can like identify whichever like research journal he's got like by emblem.
I think the secret location would be the most useful, because there will be the least amount of people to worry about there.
Yeah.
And then finding the stuff will be... That'll kind of come down to rolls for us.
All right. So you know that Bowmore Manor is an impressive site. Many, many dozens of servants work for Bowmore. Despite him being a relatively low-level noble, you get the sense that he pulls a little bit more weight than maybe he should. Perhaps that's how he manages to throw it around so much at the Arcaneum. What most people don't know is that if you went there looking for Bowmore, you would be very unlikely to find him above ground. Supposedly, in the courtyard behind his rather impressive manor is a large fountain, and beneath that fountain, if you know some kind of emblem or symbol or mechanism, you can get into his private study, which supposedly no one but himself and Stavral have access to. He will sometimes invite his sort of, for lack of a better term, aide-de-camp of the wizard community, this sort of helpful fellow that he will bring over to help him with whatever it is that he's been working on that you now know might have something to do with the Deathwoken Primacy, the long-dead inventors of necromancy. But you are going to have to start by trying to break in even just to the place itself. You'll have to get through the manor, gain access to the courtyard, get below to his personal study, and hopefully get a hold of his research and kill him while you are there. So we're going to make the engagement roll and then probably take our break at the halfway point, because I think that we have sort of built up a good bit here. And this game moves really fast, so I don't want to wait too long or we are going to end up not having time for one. So you get 1 dice for engagement just because of luck. You are criminals in the city. You've survived this long. Come on, you've got the skills. Next up, is the operation particularly bold or daring? I'm going to give it a particularly bold. You aren't just killing an Archmage, you are killing an Archmage in his private study on his manor. You aren't finding him at a third location and taking him out there, right? This is as intimate to his personal details as you can go. I don't think it's overly complex. I think it is, I would say, just below overly complex, just normal complex. The plan's detail definitely exposes a vulnerability, and you worked pretty hard to get there. But I'm going to have to take 1 dice away, because you are attacking him where he is strongest in his defenses. I don't think any of your friends are involved, but I would say you secured a contact in the form of Roth, who will now forever have to sort of contend with his connection to you. He is going to benefit from this, and in the eyes of the law, he will be part and parcel to this crime from now on. With that, I don't think there's much else to be done, so I'm going to roll 3 dice and then introduce us to our situation here. Awesome. We find you 3 outside of this large manor. Bowmore Manor proves to be a spectacle. It's one of the smaller manor houses in the city, but is still massive compared to any normal domicile. It is this beautiful two-wing building with large staircase that goes down to the front, and enclosed courtyard in the back. It plunks itself down in the middle of the city, taking up a tremendous amount of real estate built into one of the many parks that occupies some of the far corners of Kenora, where the smog from crystal refinement is not too bad, and so nobles take up their living. We see a large wagon being pulled by horses that are sleek and unnaturally muscular and lithe. These are clearly spirits that have been roped into service to pull this wagon. As it trundles along, above we see two nobles of some minor rank here to have a meeting with Bowmore. And as the camera shifts down, beneath the wagon, we see Rickon and Kerthunk, who have both lashed themselves to the posts underneath the wagon and are being brought right in through the front door. As the wagon pulls around to the carriage house and you hear steps and like, with the price of crystals, as people make their way out of the door, you watch a stable hand walk up and unhook the two horses, walk around the corner, and you are through the outer barrier of defenses inside in a dream scenario. Everything is controlled, and as you both cut your moorings and fall to the ground and stand up ready for action, we are going to take a 5-minute break there and pick up after the 5. It's getting juicy already. Well, thank you so much for watching the first half of our little program here. We are going to pick up after a 5-minute break or so catch us, sometime around 8:51. See you in just a sec. Welcome back to Scheduling Conflicts. Last time, through a connection to Roth Lomond, an Arcanist of the Arcaneum who is a competitor, a rival to Arcanist Bowmore, who Rickon and Kurthunk plan to collect the bounty on by putting Bowmore down and collecting his sort of most precious recent research, something to do with the Deathwoken primacy that apparently is worth a pretty penny to those who are willing to pay for things like arcane research. We found our two, Rickon and Kurthunk, having just been snuck in by a wagon visiting, brought to the carriage house, and left alone in the carriage house. You guys will start in a controlled position. Now, I've already started a 6-segment clock called Skywatch Will Be Called, because Bowmore is a noble in town. The actual guardians of the city are very likely to respond to reports of trouble at his home, rather than needing to be sort of chased down or called in the way that they normally would. The ball's in your guys' court. We're gonna roughly try to take turns switching between the two of you, but if somebody ends up chaining a couple together, so be it. Remember, at any point, you can spend 2 strain to give yourself 1 more die. You can spend 1 strain to give your ally 1 more die. Or you can burn a couple of strain to try and to basically do a flashback where you will reveal that you have already dealt with some problem, part of the problem. And you can always request a devil's bargain, where I give you a terrible consequence or price to pay in exchange for making something a little easier than it otherwise would be. And also remember, anytime a consequence comes up and you don't want to deal with it, you can roll to resist it, where you take a number of strain equal to 6 minus the result of your resistance roll in order to bypass that negative consequence. Rickon and Kurthunk, you have just been left alone. This is all part of the plan. As you cut yourself free of the wagon and roll out from underneath and stand up, you are in the carriage house. It seems to connect through the main house through a door right in front of you, and there is a large set of double doors out towards the front entryway, and there is a single back door that you know would lead into the sort of small garden that is in the back of the house. Not, unfortunately, the same as the smaller fountain enclosed area you are trying to get to that is within the bounds of the manor house.
All right. I think we should walk straight through into the main house, keep a low profile, and look for the master's quarters.
But we're playing Blades in the Dark. So Rickon just starts moving. You already talked about this. We flash back to you saying we go in through the side. They won't know to look for us. The doors open and we see a little bit of a flurry of activity. There are already 2 visitors at the manor today, and so we see servants and cooks rushing up and down. We see butlers and maids making their way through, cleaning, polishing, taking care of last-minute things, closing blinds in rooms they want to stay cool, opening them in rooms that they want to get a little bit warmer or get a breeze through. And Rickon and Kurthunk, just pretending like you belong, it sounds like, you walk in through the side door and start to move deeper in. Given that you're in a controlled situation, I'm going to ask for just an initial roll, and I'm going to ask, so Rickon, what skill are you trying to use to sort of make your way through here without running into too much static? For those of you who don't know, in Blades in the Dark, I, the keeper, can recommend what skill I think he is rolling, but Spencer can roll whatever he wants. If he picks something that makes no sense, I just have it have increasingly diminished effect as he wanders further off the sort of path.
Rickon is in full police regalia, and so is going to be rolling command. He is an imposing figure, especially to the lower echelons of society here.
Okay. Rickon, you're going to be rolling with command, just trying to look sturdy and straight-backed as you make your way through, assuming they will either think you are one of the guests or are a member of the Skywatch here to keep an eye on tonight's event.
4.
With a 4, a few eyes linger, and odds are word is going to start to ripple around the house that a member of the Skywatch was seen inside. If that word gets back to Loathe, gets back, not to Loath, gets back to Bowmore, Bowmore will be confused. But it's not like he's going to order everybody else out and get the house searched. It's possible that the others might have brought a member of the Skywatch with them. Perhaps they feared for their security, or one tagged along. You manage to quickly, with a few curt nods, make your way to a servant's staircase and tap up one of these narrow, very, very poorly designed staircases, these absolute death traps of high, narrow steps. As you manage to shuffle up a couple of them, Rickon, what is your loadout right now?
Heavy.
The same for Cthulhu?
Yeah.
Accompanied by sounds, one of you probably with like a large bag on your back with even more equipment. Going after even Arcanists is unsafe territory, especially during this time. You open that doorway at the top and the camera switches to the other side, and we see one of these beautiful decorated like French Rococo panels just click and slide to one side, the servants needing to be so invisible that the doorways to their parts of the house are hidden from guests, and the two of you step outside, creeping, eyes low, and shut that panel behind you. Cthulhu, what's the next part of the plan?
All right. I think he would have like also basically his bad blood with Mercy is because they were salvaging crystals from one supply and ended up finding the hard way that sometimes when they create the crystals, not all of them are quite pristine, and they tend and there's duds that are either cursed or chaos magic-y that they aren't able to use, and so those ones get shipped off and decommissioned elsewhere. And they ended up grabbing one of those, and it kind of made everything go south as they tried to test it out, and it caused a horrible explosion. So he would have wanted to have brought one of those with him that he can tie into the power system for the security matrix here, so that after a delay it'll reroute through that to send the whole security system into a haywire.
Absolutely. So it sounds like you're certainly using either, Tinker or Wreck sound like the two most likely. Yeah. Wreck I could certainly see. It sounds like you've set up a flashback. You don't necessarily need to do it yet because that will cost you stress. So let's start with the roll and see if you manage to pull this off. Rickon, you see Cthulhu pull this sort of secure capsule out of the back of his bag, rubs his hand along the top, and you see a little arcane sigil deactivate that was stabilizing what is inside. As he lifts the top, he pulls out the equivalent of a vial of nitroglycerin, this crystal that is supposed to be a bright pink color, radiating and pulsing with light, that apparently if you hold it up in the air and let go, it will just stay wherever you put it. And so if you drop them, they just sort of tumble out of the box for about an inch and then are stuck in whatever position they are in. Cthulhu's is not pink. There is this twisting green color, the same as the sky, that is like vines and roots creeping through the center of the crystal. And Cthulhu, you can see, is his hand is jiggling around, as this crystal is the opposite of sitting stable in the air. It is constantly trying to move, and if it ever slams into something, it will explode when it does. Cthulhu, you have this thing in hand. What was the result of your dice roll?
Oh, sorry. Roll it now.
I advanced, damn it!
Sorry.
It was too good.
Right. So I think because I have 2 pips in it, I rolled 2 dice, right?
Yeah, you rolled 2 dice, and you're looking for a 6 or a 5 or a 4, but not a 3 or a 2.
Yeah. All right, I did get a 5.
With a
high
5.
Dice.
All right, it is a mix. You quickly make your way up to the door that you know goes into Bowmore's private quarters within the manor house. Cthulhu, you take this stone, you walk up, and you see that there is, as you knew there would be, a heavy arcane lock in the center of the door. It has many layers of protection. You see some Doctor Strange style sigils floating in the air in front of it. Another caster would have a nearly impossible time trying to break all of these various mechanics and spells. And so the audience is sort of watching, confused, wondering what Cthulhu's plan is going to be as Cthulhu takes this. And then we look over at just the latch to the door, this very heavy, 1-inch thick latch, and Kerthunk, you take this stone, and do you just like step back and throw it into the middle of that side of the door, and we hear a loud boom. This concussive blast fills the space. Rickon, it was much louder than you were expecting it to be when Kerthunk explained it to you last. You cover your ears, the dullest like left behind, and begin to hear off in the distance a couple of hurried sets of footsteps. There is this like smear of black soot on the door, and the doorknob does look to have been like bent and twisted, but the door is also popped open. What do the two of you do?
Rickon runs to the end of the hallway, like where he hears the footsteps coming from, and then turns around and is like slow walking, but with his arms up like he's running. And when he sees the people round the bend, he turns back to them and starts like waving his hands to stop.
All right, Rickon. Exactly as you say. You run to the end of the hall. Maybe you were already prepped. Kerthunk told you it would be loud. And so you are like in a sprinter's position, and then you stand up and start like slow-mo running until you hear footsteps that sound like they're coming from the same stairwell you're in. And then you pick up for like 2 steps and then turn around and start waving your hands.
Stop!
You see a butler. They are dressed like a butler. They are wearing a suit and they have on a tie. This butler is about 6'5", has very burly shoulders, and looks like, if you've ever looked up in like the 80s when bodybuilders would wear suits to the Arnold Classic and they all look ridiculous in like doll's clothes suits, is making his way up and he goes, what's the meaning of this?
It seems like it's an arcane leak. Some buildup must have exploded over there. If you're not of Guardian descent, I wouldn't recommend walking over, but I'll check it out. And I gesture to the uniform.
Make a control. You watch him. The gears are turning, and you need the first thought to be, well, he's a member of Skywatch, and not the first thought to be, why is there a member of Skywatch here?
Yeah. What it was consort.
It's whatever you want it to be. That's
gotcha.
There's options that I think make more sense.
I still feel like this is a command, luckily enough. I'm saying stay back, it's dangerous, and I can handle it. 5 is my high roll.
All right, so slow down on that just a little bit. I was going to say, you can do it with command. It will be risky instead of controlled, because you are drawing attention to the logical issue. And with a 5, I think that's exactly what happens. You see, he goes, yeah, all right. Yeah, no, you go handle it. And he takes like a good long look at your face as you turn to, and at like the rank pins you have on, and turns, and you hear him like thunk, 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 like fast walking somewhere. He is about to ask who you are.
I run over to Kerthunk and I say, we've got like 1 minute.
And I'm going to fill 1 circle on the clock of the Skywatch showing up.
Well, doors sort of open, and let's head in.
Kerthunk, you push the door open and step inside. Rickon, that thick, acrid smell of magical leavings is still suffusing the space. Kerthunk always kind of smells like it, and so it is a little less apparent to him. As you open the doors, you open them into a beautiful bedroom. There is a very large 4-poster bed covered in ornate carvings to one side. To your left, there is a desk set into like a little library nook with its own fireplace and a chair towards the corner. You can see a very small alchemy lab in the other side. Maybe you could pass this off as a place where an arcanist is doing their work. But to any trained arcanist, they would know that that was nonsense. This is enough to make a couple of potions and maybe a poultice. It is not enough to do any real work. But it is full of the personal effects and objects of Arcanist Bowmore. What do the two of you do? What's
Rickon is standing out like around the doorway. He pulls a massive hammer off of his back where it had been cinched down, and he's holding it, so if somebody walks in, he will swing it and hopefully kill them.
we see Rickon pulls out what seems to be a sledgehammer that he has like sawn a good 2/3 of the handle off of so that it could slip into the back of his shirt. And so you have the benefits of the very heavy head of the hammer, but with a much less leverage, because Rickon kind of doesn't need that much to get done what he does. Kurthunk, as Rickon puts his back to the door, watching around the corner, Rickon, I'll say that you're just really well situated to protect your ally should need be. What is Kurthunk's part of the plan here? How does getting into this room get you into the courtyard and into that secret lab, for lack of a better term?
All right. Well, they need an emblem here, so he's got to have like a replica of it in this room that we can find, and then use that to get into the fountain. So I'm looking around for that. I'm
All right,
filtering through his kind of like his like logbooks and stuff, and like looking at areas that are a little more well used.
What action are you trying to roll?
Survey.
Absolutely, go ahead.
All right. And 1 pip, 1d6. And I got a 6 on that one.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. I thought that was going to take a lot longer. I ate a French fry. You immediately start to look around in the room. Rickon, for a moment, you wonder what the approach will be. Is Kurthunk going to start like pulling things off of the walls, using rec to look for an object? You know what I mean? And instead, we watch Kurthunk look around the room. And for a moment, we aren't sure what he's looking for until we start to zoom in on handprints and places where dust are and where paint has been slowly worn off, where lacquer has been lightened by hands grabbing the same drawer, the same handle day after day after day after day. And it isn't too long before Kurthunk, you see that there is a drawer that has been opened and closed and opened and closed and opened and closed. But the items in the drawer seem largely undisturbed, covered in thin layers of dust in some parts. The leather of one of the notebooks creaks when you open it, clearly not having been opened and closed and made good use of. And so Kurthunk opens the drawer and lifts a false bottom out, reaches his hand in, and comes out with what looks to be almost, you would think it's like the head of a doll, except it's made of stone. It weighs a good 3 or 4 pounds in your hand. And what you know is that this is a perfect match for the cherubs on the fountain in the courtyard. And this is, if slotted into one of these cherubs, that if you look really closely, one of them is just a torso. Because of the angle it's at, it's hard to tell, but there's not actually a head. If you slide this on, the door to below will open, and you grab that, scoop it into your pocket. Rickon, you duck your head out and hear a set of footsteps for just a second, and then hear another voice like, "Wait a moment, there's too much to do. And somebody is pulled away. As if they were sent here maybe to check up on what was going on, and were, by pure luck, pulled away by somebody that needed them to do something else.
We got it, Rickon. All right.
I look out the window of this room down into that main courtyard area. Do I see people milling about?
I'm gonna keep pushing. We've been playing too much D&D. What do you see when you open those doors? Did you know it would be full and busy? Did you know that it would be empty? When you planned this, what was the itinerary for the night, and when would you have chosen to jump from this windowsill?
Now would be when it's not filled at all. Only the first guests have arrived, and these are the people that are setting things up, still things are going. So outside is clear. There's just a few guests in the home. So now I pull out a rope and tie it off to like the banister, and I say, "Let's go." And I grab on and I start shimmying down the rope to the ground below.
All right, what action are you trying to roll? I see some gear, I see some careful planning, I see some stealth, maybe some muscle to like just hand over hand go down very quickly.
Yeah.
I will be unfurling some of my climbing gear and
right,
handing it to you as you set it up.
I'm gonna use Tinker because there's gear being used here. I'm fixing it, I'm belaying, I'm doing all that
Great.
good stuff.
So Kurthunk, I'm going to ask, with what you just described, are you going to burn a point of stress to help Rickon, or were you just flavor describing?
Using from my load the climbing gear, I think. I can use that, right, for this?
Oh yeah, you will basically just be using it for Rickon's benefit, so fill in the climbing gear.
Mm-hmm.
So as you fill in those boxes, as you use that bit of gear, and Rickon can add another d6 to this check.
Nice. I got a 5.
All right. With the 5, I'm going to give you a choice. Either there were people in the courtyard, so you were expecting it to be completely empty, and a couple of people were already inside. You'll go at a good pace. You will mostly go unnoticed, but there are going to be people around that you are going to have to deal with as you try to find your way inside. Or 2, there can be nobody, and I will give you a different consequence. So you can the devil you know or the devil you don't.
There are people around.
Okay. Rickon, you manage to tie this off and open the windows. You look out. There's nobody, just like you thought there would be. You roll your hand over. Kerthunk hands you like a better set of grips and something for the rope to help along. And as you take like that first rappelling step, you hear a handle turn and a door open, and you look over your shoulder, and a small group is like laughing. One of them has a wine bottle, and the other one has like 2 glasses in their hand. And you see that there's like a couple and a few friends who that couple clearly didn't want to come with them that are making their way into like this little courtyard opening. And you are already rappelling down the side of the building. Like there's no easy way out on this one. What do you do next?
I do a flourish as I keep swinging down, and I go, ha ha, ha, and I land down on the ground, and I say, for anyone who's interested, there is going to be some rappelling training and a bit of a demonstration later on. Right up through there, you can see the ropes are set up, so if you're interested, that'll be in about an hour or so.
All right, what skill are you trying to roll?
Fucking sway.
Yeah, it's gotta be sway. I was like, come on now. Consort you could argue for. Kerthunk, you're just like, you just hear that and peek over the edge and see people like looking, mouths agape.
6! Yes! The
6.
first 6 of the night for me.
You see, for a moment, they're all like a little mouth agape, look to one another, and then you see one of them is a little bit, a little bit ropey of build with a little bit of larger shoulders, and you look down and see that he has like pretty well calloused hands, and it's the one that's on the date, and he's like, we could go try it and see. And you can tell that there is somebody who already climbs in his free time who has just been given a golden opportunity to be impressive. And he goes, we should really check it. I bet these guys, do you guys want to go talk? And like immediately starts to talk the group into it, thinking this is just a good way for him to get a little face card at this party. And you manage to slide down, and Kerthunk, you right along with him. Inexplicably, the two of you have managed to find a way to make that work.
Like I said, 1 hour, we'll see you up there, and we walk away.
I think it could be fun as they're as you are walking away from them and making a little bit of a gap. Kerthunk, what comes next as you guys are approaching the fountain? You have this thing in hand. The courtyard is mostly empty. There's just a couple of people who have already kind of been warded off.
All right. I think I'm going to go to the fountain and I want to be examining it, reaching my hand in, and I want to grab one of the little I guess water spurting crystals or whatever is used for it. And I'm gonna tweak it so it's kind of causing an explosion of water, just to be oh no, it looks like I'm gonna have to repair this. Everyone, stand back.
You reach
out
as
I sabotage it to cause a flood.
You reach out and you see that it is this beautiful, large fountain. It's easily, 40 or 50 feet in radius. So it is this 100-foot wide fountain that is beautifully pouring infinite water down through to the bottom and then back up and out. You look around and see that it is at the central, this large figure who is surrounded by these flying cherubs. You know that this is one of the depictions of the sort of spirit of the War of Principles. There is currently, that war was so ubiquitous and changed the world so much that there is currently a god of that war and the new beginning that started afterwards, and this depicts them. But sort of all around them are these many kind of gargoyle-y hydra dragon looking heads, and in their mouths you see these blue crystals, inside of which you can see like feebly laying down a water elemental trapped in the crystal. These like little minor methods that is like banging on this outside of this gemstone, unable to move. And you know that this is all you need to do is crack the containment, and the imp does all the work for you of turning it into a panic. What action are you trying to use as you interfere with this?
I'm gonna just try and like wreck these crystals and let them go.
Great.
All right, that's a 3 and a 2. So,
All right.
to improve the roll, do I just burn stress, or can I use something for my load?
I will use my load on this, using demolition tools. I see you start hammering away at one of the crystals, and it's not working. And taking a page out of your book, I have one of those anti-crystals, and I pull that out of my pouch, set it down next to it, and then take a step back as you hammer it into the other one.
Okay. So we see. So you can roll one more die, Kurthunk.
All right,
A little bit of a
That's
bend on the
also
rules,
a-
but close enough.
3.
Another 3. All right. I'm going to give you not necessarily a devil's bargain. It's going to be just another choice. I keep forgetting about devil's bargains. You rear back with the hammer, and you are like mid-swing coming through, and the crystal slips out of your hand. It is like jostling around, and it slips. And we are in slow motion. You have 2 choices, Kurthunk. You can still hit the crystal, and it will damage the fountain considerably more than you were planning on. It will call a massive amount of attention here right away, and not to the water, to you and what has just happened. Or you can shatter into the crystal and absolutely annihilate the crystal with this imp inside, in which case you will have to deal with the anger of an elemental tearing out and escaping. To be plain, either your position is about to get a lot worse, or Kurthunk is about to get pretty hurt.
I think I'm gonna just keep on wrecking the fountain, because we're not gonna be here for too long, and we don't need to appreciate the fountain ourselves.
Worst position.
Yeah.
Okay, so your position going forward is going to move down hugely. You swing, the hammer smashes into this gemstone, and instead of bopping into the back of that blue crystal, it rockets into like the center bottom of the fountain. As it touches the water, it explodes, sending this ripple of shockwave backwards that takes you and Rickon both off of your feet down onto the ground. It lets a thunderous woof go through the entire courtyard, and those windows that are closest, tush, 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 shatter up the sides of the building, and you immediately begin to hear sounds of panic, and your situation goes from controlled to risky. For the record, that's the longest I think I've ever seen a group keep a hold of controlled. You guys go from controlled to risky as immediately activity bursts into the space. You know that there will be some distraction, and so you reach out and put that doll head on that statue. You don't need to roll for that. You already collected it. A set of spiral stairs shunk, 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 open down one side, and you can jog down from within. All
In
right.
we go.
As you jog
Sounds
down towards the bottom, you reach a lower landing and get to a large stone door that is in front of you. Obviously meant to look very impressive. It is like detailed and carved in this kind of secret entrance. You know from your research into this place that the stairwell will not shut until the door is open. But this is where your information kind of ended. No one really knows what Beaumore's private study is like, and so you don't know what the deal with this door is. As you run up, obviously, you go to just twist the handle, and it jiggles, but does not open. Which of the two of you wants to take point on this? As you hear crashing sounds above you, and you begin to hear doors open and people yelling like, "Go, go, go, get help, we need a conjurer, someone to contain the elemental." Like you hear like activity starting to whip up.
I'm more of a people person, Kurthunk, so I'm gonna have to leave this one to you.
All right. Well, these mages aren't too strong, so I'm sure this door is probably pretty flimsy too. As I try to smash into it.
Okay,
Incredibly
I'm
true.
going to give you I'm going to give you risky limited. You're trying to smash down a stone door, so if ever there was a time for you guys to pull out the stops on getting bonuses, now would be a good time to do it.
All right. Should I use my own demolition tools then?
You
Just
could use
try
that.
and, like-
Rickon could burn stress to give you help, give you another die. You could burn 2 to give yourself another die.
Go ahead with the demolition tools.
All right. Yeah, I've got these like little like resonance crystals that I'm like taking, and I'm just like slamming them as far as I can into it, and it like to create like an extra reverberation to try and like break down this
all right,
stone.
so you have a 1 bonus die from that, and now I'm going to offer you a devil's bargain. I will give you another die if on a mixed success or a failure you take harm.
Yeah,
Okay.
so that'll be 4 die total, I think.
Yeah, take another die then. So that brings you up to
All
4.
right.
The odds are so in our favor.
All right. Dang. Well, even with that, I got a 4 at least.
Your luck today, man, has been tough.
Yeah.
With a 4, you rear back and slam these 3 crystals into the mechanism of this door. It is going to burst open. As it does, though, it sends you flying backwards. In the moment, you had thought, Kerthunk, it's not a big deal. Like, we have I'll fall either into Rickon or onto the staircase. That's not great, but it's not like I'm falling down the stairs. But as you slam the crystal into the door, and the door is flung off its hinges to the interior, you are blown 5 feet back, and you know you should hit the stairs. What you don't see is what Rickon does, which is these beautiful stone spiral stairs that you guys thought were going to like slowly lock back into place. Swing back into place, and Kerthunk goes 5, 10, 15 feet and slams into the stone wall on the other side. You take a level 1 harm as you are sent hurtling across the room.
Walk it off.
Oh man, those stairs are very unforgiving.
Yeah.
The door is open before you. It leads in deeper. You can see the same blue lights filling the hallway down below. What comes next?
Rickon affixes like a badge to his uniform that indicates he is a detective for the unit. It is not his, but he does have it. He affixes it there. So I am using documents
Nice.
as another point.
We see a
And I walk
previous scene
forward.
of Rickon catching up with an old buddy at like a coffee shop in the city. They're chatting and he like pats him on the back. We turn and Rickon takes his badge and tucks it in his top pocket and goes off to this other part. And we see you pinning it to the outside like you would if you were on an active case.
And I walk forward like nothing's wrong.
As the door blows open, it is only a few moments later that you hear some like shuffling sounds. As you sort of make your way forward, Rick and you expecting to catch a little bit of static at some point, you watch as coming down the hallway the other way, you see this not quite like a large stone golem, but this like squat, thicker through the neck version. Not the kind of like tall, lean, statuesque ones. This one seems to be a little bit more carved and lower. It's like tunk, 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 trundles its way around the corner looking like a dwarf from Lord of the Rings and goes, "Who goes there?" And you just see this little stone construct that's maybe 5 feet tall, but you know if it starts throwing punches is going to be devastating.
Detective Crag, and I point at my my badge. I say, "Fetch your master, creature. We have questions for him."
All right, I feel like you're going for command.
Yeah.
And take a +1 because you have documents.
Woohoo!
Kerthunk, I assume you just like stay behind, back against the wall.
Yeah.
6.
6. All right, Rickon. It squints, looking at the badge closer, and goes, "Very well, Skywatch." Turns and starts to skunk, gunk, 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 gunk down the way behind you. And you watch Kerthunk start to slowly pivot behind, making their way through. You pass a few doorways. Some are open, some are closed, that seem to lead into small labs, experiment rooms. You see one where various different herbs and plants for all kinds of alchemical things are being planted and growing. You see others where there are walls lined with cages of various animals that have been tainted by the arcane. These are very common. You see them all over the place now that this world has been turned into a lush jungle. Tree frogs who, instead of having bright coloration, have like swirling galaxies in their coloration, and whose poison makes people fly or float off the ground or turn into chickens. All of these strange arcane oddities collected and experimented on, dissected. You see a lot of very illegal magic in this place. As you continue downwards, you see Bowmore's mad clawing for position, taking increasingly strange paths to the top. You are led deeper and deeper down, going about 3 stories of circular stair before you reach the bottom. And it occurs to you that you are standing in a wizard's tower, flipped upside down and jammed into the ground. As you reach the bottom, a large, beautiful set of wooden double doors appears on the other side. This construct walks to the bottom, turns around, and goes, "How should I announce you?"
Detective Crag and his anti-magic associate.
Yeah.
The door opens, and you see the small stone construct turns around the corner and goes, "Announcing!" And you hear, "What? Detective Crag! What?" A inflection upbeat, and you begin to hear like thud, 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 slam, 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 and his anti-magic associate. And you hear another voice go, "No, no, 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 I won't go back," and like hear flurry of activity from the other side. As this construct introduces you and then steps back out into the hallway. Rickon, what do you do as you hear raw panic coming from the other side?
Hear me, Bowmore. Evidence of your crimes goes beyond what you have in this room. Do not attempt to hide it from us. We will find it nonetheless. Come and speak, and we may give you leniency.
Go ahead and make a roll. I assume it's command. This is risky limited. You've said, "Hey, evil wizard, you're already caught."
5.
A 5, a mixed. You hear like a chatter, chatter, chatter. "Of course, absolutely. Just step into the room so that I can hand over my effects. I'm grabbing them right now." And you hear all a little bit more noise, and then all noise stop.
I take my hammer and hold it through the doorway really quick, like as if it's walking through.
Interesting. So here's what I'll say. Is that part of your gear?
Yeah, it's my heavy weapon.
All right, so here's what I'm going to give you. You will automatically get over this obstacle, and it will destroy that piece of gear.
Yeah, it's all right.
Okay, you hold out this large 2-handed hammer around the corner, and you watch a bolt of lightning streak like 40 feet across through into the hammer, into the wall behind it, and into the lab behind that, going for probably about 100 feet forward into the stone and dirt. As you hear like as lightning courses through, the hammer shatters, but we see Rickon already low to the ground, sprinting into the room with that spell discharged. You know he can't do shit for about 6 seconds. As Kurthunk,
no more clemency for you.
As Kurthunk, you are right behind
right.
him. We pivot to you. Rickon deactivates, I guess, this lightning bolt sent out by Bowmore directly. As you whip around the corner, what do?
I guess basically just gonna have to like get into a sprinter's position, just run at him and just tackle him down to the ground.
Okay. Gotcha. All right. So what are you thinking? Wreck, hunt?
I was thinking skirmish for the brawl and wrestle.
Yeah,
sort of thing.
absolutely.
Okay.
Kurthunk, Rickon, you dodge around the lightning bolt and already hear thunk, 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 and you turn to see Kurthunk still in heavy gear, like diving across a table over to where he is to tackle him to the ground. As you look into this room, you see a few tables spread out, and you can see bones laid out, full skeletons laid out very carefully, bone by bone, metacarpal by metacarpal, on 3 tables. To one side, you see Bowmore. He is in a bright reddish purple robe. He has on like glasses with these thinly tinted darker lenses, and you can see that in one of his hands is an orb that is glowing extremely brightly. Across the room from him is an exceptionally old looking undead, a white WIGHT, these like mummified, partially light blue skinned, their teeth go sharp with age and their eyes go milky white, in a wheelchair. Spending so long in undeath that the overtime damage to his bones and cartilage has rendered his legs unusable. You see this in the clothing that you would recognize from mostly paintings of the Deathwoken. This mage, alive, but chair-bound, who looks up like twisting quickly. And you see 2 people in the room. Kurthunk, what was the result of your roll?
Got a 5.
All right, with a 5. You sprint across the space and dash and tackle a wizard into the ground. As you do,
Easy.
Unfortunately, your shoulder hits the ground before his body does, just because of the angle, and it knocks him out of your arms. You are both on the ground, and he is just in front of you, so he is in a terrible position for him to be in. But he already begins to raise a hand towards you. Bracken, you're up.
Okay.
Yeah, Rickon this is gonna be unsurprising, runs up and pulls 2 swords from his waist and stabs down at the wizard.
All right. Roll to skirmish. Do you want to do anything to gain any pluses here?
No, I got a 5.
Okay, with a 5, I think I know exactly what happens. Rickon, you jump across the space with these short swords, not knowing that he is not grappled and has already prepared to blast something in Kurthunk's face. You grit your teeth, though, rather than like dive out of the way, and proceed to swing down with these 2 short swords. Take 1 point of harm. Take a level 1 harm. Take charred, as what we would know to be burning hands, as a gout of flame erupts into your face, and Rickon, you just like turn your head to the other side and stab downwards. You feel one of these blades sinks into Bowmore's side, cutting, and I'm going to start a 4-part clock. Bowmore dies. He takes this wound to his side. You immediately see red, scarlet red, start to soak into his cloak. As he grabs at the wound, looking up at you, burns not affecting you. He, get your hands off, help! Calling out over to the other caster, who is like looking around at the 2 of you, still a little stunned. Kurthunk, what are you doing?
All right. I guess I'm taking out my scary weapon or tool, which is the Kurthunker.
What is it?
You know, like the Kurthunker, and you know those like little pajamas where they're all the steel balls, and you hit one and it like goes through. It's like 2 of those. One of them has got like these like teeth on it, and then the other one is like pulls back and has a spring. And so I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna swing it at him so it'll hit him, and then the back one will go Kurthunk.
You take this absolute Looney Tunes hammer that just says the Kurthunker emblazoned up along the side. These like 2 metal balls made to enhance the damage as you swing overhead down.
And keeping with the skirmish.
Of course, yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Oh
no. You guys have got to slow down a little bit, because you could have asked for help. You could have gotten bonuses. We could have made a devil's bargain. You keep rushing me. All right.
Yeah.
So
do I get 1 more dice because I'm using the weapon, or
yes, you would get 1 bonus die for using your gear.
Also, we have, if you're skirmishing, we have on our assassin's crew a +1 action rating to hunt, prowl, or skirmish. Mine is set to skirmish, but I'm not sure if you would set yours. So it can be skirmish or it can be hunt or prowl.
Okay, I was using skirmish, yeah. And so
Gotcha.
what
So
is
you
the
have-
action rating?
You just get a
How many
plus
little,
one on
pips
like
you
an
have?
additional pip. So I've got
Oh,
3
okay.
pips on skirmish now.
All right, cool. So I will roll one
This
more.
is our second time ever playing this game, if you are watching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I got 2 4s, a 3, and a 2, so a 4 total.
A 4 total. Things continue to sort of come to blows here. You swing down, and this hammer cracks into the side of Bowman's head. You see it really rings his bell. You watch a shimmer over his body break as his concentration on mage armor shatters. As the second ball swings down into his head from the other side, it pushes him down to the ground. I am going to fill another of these bars. But from behind you, you begin to hear this chanting, swelling sound, and you watch as, holding his hand up, this undead mage on the other side, this green energy starts to suffuse his own undead body, and the 3 skeletons on the tables all leap into action, sprinting towards you all, trying to grab at your arms and rip you up off of their master. The 2 of them on Kurthunk, one of them one hand immediately grabbing at your face, one of the hands goes in your mouth to try to pull you up, so that you have to choose between your face getting ripped off or it getting you through, as another one is grabbing at your ankle and trying to keep you off balance so that you cannot swing. Rickon, one of them immediately just leaps into the air and grabs itself around your torso and has pinned your right arm so that you can't move it, and you're having to try to rip it off with just your left, as immediately your situation is continuing to worsen. Who's up next?
It's gonna be Rickon. Rickon yells out, "Stand down, White! We're not after you! We're here to assassinate this fool! Actually, in fact, we have a deal to bring you to another mage named Roth Lomond."
You hear from under Kurthunk's sort of grip, "Roth, you son of a bitch," as Bowman hears you call that across the room. Rickon, go ahead and roll. I think it's going to be sway. Is there anything you want to do for a bonus here? You can burn 2 stress yourself to get +1. You could flashback to have some kind of evidence. You could try to get Kurthunk to help you in some way. We could make a devil's bargain.
I'm going to try and swing command, and to show sort of the futility of attacking us in this way, I have my special ability not to be trifled with. I can engage a small gang on equal footing in close combat. So I whip the one skeleton around and hit 2 other ones. Just intimidation-wise, I'm not damaging them.
What a perfect ability. No, but come on, that's Blades in the Dark.
Hell yeah.
We're not in D&D. This is a little bit more loosey-goosey. Your command can kill
Yeah.
skeletons if you narrate it as part of the command. I added, this guy doesn't have spell slots. He just gets to make
True.
skellies, because
True.
I described him that way. All right, go ahead and make that command roll. I'm going to say, I think this is pretty straight up the middle, risky standard. This undead mage of the primacy probably doesn't have a lot of scruples.
True. So I've got 2 on my command. I don't suppose my special ability gives me any 6! I don't need any extra. Let's go.
6 doesn't matter. You call this out across the space, and as you do, you grab the one skeleton that has you sort of pinned, and then you see where your hand is. You reach out that pinned hand and grab its spine, and then grab lower and just snap it in half, whip the top half across, and Kurthunk, you just feel the hands come off your mouth.
Wow.
As that skeleton is just scattered across the stones by the throwing of this other torso. The mage in the wheelchair looks around and goes, "Sorry, Bomo. You had spark, kid." And turns and starts to roll towards the door, getting out from where you are. And your Bomo go, "You son of a bitch!" As he's getting still pushed to the ground by Kurthunk. Kurthunk, what do you do as you manage to get Bowmore isolated?
All right. I will strike him again, just telling him, "Well, you won't be death woken, but you will certainly be dead."
All right, cool.
As I pull back the orb again and then slam down.
So you were still risky standard. You're still taking on a lot of risk. You haven't done anything to mitigate those things. It's not like you clasped his hands together. So all right, go ahead and roll. You got damage on the line.
Ooh, and I got a 6 that time. And wait, yeah, so a 6.
Okay. Just remember, the only time it really matters is if you ever roll more than 1 6, you get a crit. I think it's any time there's more than one. All right, cool. Yeah, absolutely. I fill another of the cart. He is starting to look desperately, horribly injured, as you are also beginning to hear more muffled sounds coming from somewhere up above you. The fountain situation, it appears, has come to a head in the 30 or so seconds, maybe a minute, since you've come down here. But as you rear up Kurthunk and slam down, this time into his chest, you hear a symphony of cracks as many of his ribs shatter under the effects of this assassins. He is starting to like wheeze and have trouble finding the syllables for spell work, but you can tell that he still has some fight in him and has like pushed his back up against the wall as that one skeleton is still trying to like stay between you and him and like leverage you up off. Who's up?
Rickon grabs a cloth off of one of the tables and throws it across the room to where Beaumore has pushed himself against the wall, trying to cover him so he can't see where he's casting his spells.
Sorry, just heard super loud noise. Wasn't sure what it was. Yeah, absolutely. You reach and like whip a tablecloth off in his direction, playing dirty as it sort of spirals across the room. What action were you trying to roll?
I think skirmish.
Yeah, totally.
I'm in combat. I'm throwing some shit at him.
Yeah,
I'm
you're like a
doing that.
gladiator
I got
with a
3.
net and a harpoon or whatever it's called.
Another 6.
Another 6. You guys are rolling like crazy.
4, 5, 6. Let's go.
Awesome. And you guys aren't even really using much stress. As you like hurl this tablecloth across the space, it covers him up and he begins to like tear across to the sides, and you hear like, no fair, as he's trying to just rip through the middle of the tablecloth.
Get him, Kurthunk.
And so your position moves to controlled, even though your result stays at standard. Kurthunk, you have this dude dead to rights. What do you do?
All right. I think this time, now that he's like a little more pinned, I want to like, and he can't really see, I want to like snag both of his ankles, and I'm just going to hurl him up into the ceiling.
All right, Rickon, you watch Kurthunk, tired of staying in melee, reach down and grab this dude's ankles to just whip him into something hard. Kurthunk, go ahead and roll skirmish for sure. Do you want to do anything to gain any bonus?
I think I will.
It's up to you. You can take on 2 points of strain to get +1. You could use some more equipment if you have any load left. You could try to get Rickon on your side and see if he can give you a +1 by taking on some strain. You could I could come up with the devil's bargain. Does any of that sound good, or do you just want to trust your 2 or 3 dots?
There's a rage essence vial. Can I use that for another dice?
Yeah. Tired of this, you look over and the camera / Rickon sees Kurthunk like pop open this low, squat, wide-mouthed vial and take a deep sniff and stopper it as you do smelling salts mixed with high-grade stimulants and proceed to try to just huck this guy across the room. Roll with +1 additional die.
All right, and my highest is still only a 3, so I think I'm gonna take stress as like this stuff like starts like working on my immune system and like causing my like blood to boil.
So you're just trying to save. So in that case, you are going to try to resist the consequences, right?
I guess, or is it 2 stress to succeed, or?
It's 2 stress to get 1 more die. It's not 2 stress to succeed.
Okay. My luck is kind of bad, but right now, so I will roll 1 more die then.
Okay, in that case, take 2 points of strain, and you get to roll 1 more time.
My 3rd one.
No way! Get different dice. You watch Rickon as Kurthunk picks him up by the ankles and goes to just swing him into one of the like stone supports of this place, throwing him, hoping that it will just snap this idiot's spine and be done with it. As he hurls him across the space, you watch as the moment that this like fabric leaves the ground, it goes inert and falls, as he was released just long enough that he cast a spell on himself, and he has been blinked. And you know he will reappear from the ethereal plane in a few seconds, but he hasn't reappeared yet. And that is your consequences. Now he will be night crawling around the room. Rickon, you're up.
Where did he go?
Rickon looks around the room. What's illuminating the space right now?
It's these little blue arcane fire lights that just give this like steady sputter of light to the room.
Gotcha. How many are there?
Lighting this room now, there needs to be one every like 10 feet, so there's at least 15 or so.
Gotcha. All right, in that case, I won't fuck with them. I was thinking about turning off the lights, essentially, so he reappears in the darkness.
Well, wait. We're not playing Dungeons and Dragons.
True.
We're playing Blades in the Dark. You can say, this was my plan to turn all the lights off, and we'll roll to see if it worked. You don't need to say, is there an easy way to turn the lights off? Your guy can be like, good thing I brought the light turn outer, and like click a button.
That's true. Okay, I'm going to roll a tune.
Okay. So Rickon's going for magic.
And I'll do a devil's bargain on it.
Yeah, all right. What would the devil's bargain be here? Okay. I'm going to say if you partially succeed, you will turn all of the lights off for the entire house. And the
Nice.
and the Skywatch clock will go up by 2 slices.
That is worth it.
And when you get a second, tell the music track to replay. We're playing to silence right now.
Of course.
Oh,
And I am going to, in addition to that, use my last item for arcane implements.
All right. So that's you have 2 additional die, 1 from the item and 1 from that devil's bargain.
So that is going to be a total of 3 die.
Come on.
I got a 6.
You got another. The 2 of you need to trade luck. You guys need to high five and try to get some of that to sort of osmose between the 2 of you. Rickon, what goofy ass thing do you pull out that turns off the lights only in this room?
Rickon pulls out this like breathing apparatus that he latches onto his face really quick. He presses a button on the side and he breathes in, and all of the arcane energy in the room, including the skeleton, gets pulled in towards him. It doesn't necessarily turn the skeleton off, but it does get the lights going, and it sifts into him. He presses the button, and it expels again, and then drifts to nothing.
Oh, so we see all of these lights flicker out as the main magical focus of them lifts its energy off for a moment, and Rickon breathes it into this mask, and then presses another button, and we see emerald smoke expel from the sides, making this cloud that then dissipates, and the room is completely pitch black. The only thing you can hear is the sound of a skeleton stumbling around. It's almost acting drunk, like its connection to whatever soul has it revived has grown thinner. And Rickon begins to wonder, is being drunk just your connection to your soul getting thinner? As the skeleton is like making its way around the room. You hear it like clacking its jaws like it's trying to talk, but it doesn't have a tongue or lungs, so it can't. So you just hear like clack, 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 as this sound fills the room. A few moments later, you'll hear, whoom, ah, what? And you just hear a really confused voice as he appears. Ah, what? And doesn't know where he is. Kurthunk, you hear that sound. What do you do?
I want to sort of like cause more confusion for him and just start destroying whatever's on the wall nearest me. So like I'm blindly taking swings just to like
What the hell?
this place even more to like put him on edge.
Yeah, go ahead and roll wreck. Let's see what happens. If you really succeed, this could get stupid.
All right. Well, I had more bad luck, but finally I got at least another 5.
Another 5. All right. I think I know exactly what happens then. Kurthunk, you're making your way around to the one side, and you just start to just slam your hammer into the wall, making this loud sound. You hear vials and things shattering. You hear books tearing under the weight of the hammer. Rickon, you hear no, and like hear footsteps, and all of a sudden you know exactly where Bowmore is. But with the how do I do the imperfect here? With a perfect roll, he was going to back up, and he was going to back into Rickon, and you were basically getting +1 dice. But so, Rickon, you know exactly where he is. Kurthunk, you know exactly where he is. But the reason Kurthunk knows is that you watch a small ball of fire flare across the room towards Kurthunk. As it flares across the space, Kurthunk, it strikes you in the side. And unless you want to negate harm, you're going to take one. You're going to take a level 1 harm.
All right. And how does the roll to resist go?
So for the roll to resist, you would tell me how you are going to resist the roll, and then you don't suffer the consequences, but you take stress equal to 6 minus the attribute that you are using to resist. The attribute being that sideways column on your character sheet. So the actions are hunt, study, survey, tinker, finesse, prowl, skirmish, wreck, and attune, command, consort, sway. The attributes are insight, prowess, resolve.
Okay, so I think I'll roll wreck. Like, I'm throwing everything in the air that like there's like between me and him, like he knows where I am, but not that like I've destroyed all these things and have been sending like scraps of like books and shelves and stuff behind me. So I'm like causing this obstacle course for that firebolt to have to get through to get to.
So what you're rolling isn't wreck, it's prowess.
Prowess. Okay.
You roll 3d6 and you're going to take the highest die, and your stress will be 6 minus the result of that die.
All right.
So it could be 5, which would be a lot of stress to take, or it could be 1.
Yeah. Or okay. Yay! I did roll a 6.
Great.
Yeah!
6, you take no stress. As this fireball is luring across the space, you look and you see a glass vial with about an inch of liquid in the bottom, and the entire rest of the vial is frozen. And you grab it and throw it down on the ground, and a wall of ice appears, and the fire explodes it, saving you from any harm. Rickon, you know right where he is. He has appeared. He is finally not bamfing. He's finally doesn't have a skeleton or another undead guy to help him. What do you do?
Rickon sees that Kurthunk has laid out this labyrinthine maze of broken objects. He sees the fireball. The guy's illuminated. Rickon runs up, grabs him from behind, gets both of his arms locked up, and goes for a suplex into the big pile of broken, shattered glass and wood and metal.
Oh my god. All right. That's grim. Obvious devil's bargain. If you take 1 harm, I'll let you have another die.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, there you go. Take +1 for that.
5.
All right, with a 5, you rear up, having him around his midsection, and whip around and slam Bowmore down into the ground. For just a second, you are a little too distracted as you feel this like long, jagged splinter of wood jam into your side, Rickon. You feel that burn, and then look down just in time to see a massive pool of scarlet flowing out on the ground beneath Bowmore. You grab the back of his head and lift him up to see what has happened, and you see a long sliver of glass. If you've ever been around like lab equipment, when it breaks into these like long shards of glass because of the kind of glass, like the borosilicate it is, and you see one of them is like jammed down. It's not straight into his throat, it's down and in, and you can't imagine how much of it is in his throat, and he's like a fish out of water, trying to breathe and can't, and blood is just flowing down the front of him, and he goes still in your hands as you're just like holding him by the back of his head.
I drop him.
He falls down to the ground, slipping a little bit in the blood. You pull that piece of wood out of your side, throw it to the ground, and from outside you hear a little skirt, and a head comes around the corner, and you see that undead wight goes, Do you two gentlemen ever plan on how to get out of here?
Yeah, give me 1 second. And we cut like a minute later. I have taken
Hysterical.
the clothes. I've taken the clothes off of Bowmore and put them onto the white. And I cover him with like a little hood. And I say,
Are you sure?
we're just gonna walk out. We're gonna pretend that we are escorting you out. You're a little drunk. Just pretend that way. We're gonna leave the chair behind. We'll get you a new chair. Don't worry. And that'll be our way out. But before we do it, is there anything worth a lot of coin here? Just down like a lot. And we'll grab that. Then we'll set fire to this place and we'll get the fuck out.
He directs you to the vials on the wall. Kurthunk shattered one section of them, but there are others. And he goes, we have been working on many poultices and poisons and venoms that cannot be sold in the city, and that, as far as most people are concerned, cannot be made any longer. Stuff a few of those in your pocket, and you'll want for little in the next few months.
Perfect.
You
grab
throw
those.
some just heinous look. One of them has like a little imp dancing in the bottle. Another one is just black smoke. And he goes, "It's liquid once it's open." And you go, "Okay." And you just put like 8 vials in your bag. Close the bag. And so I guess in your, I don't think it'll take up an equipment slot, but just note you have this sort of breakable bag of booty here as you are making your way up. He is in these ropes, somewhat bloodstained on one side, and so Kurthunk is like walking on that side of him.
Yeah, I will also use my subterfuge supplies to pull out basically like the magical like sodium or hydrogen peroxide, like cleaning and baking soda stuff to be like cleaning the blood out of this stuff.
That means this was always part of the plan. And
Of
that
course it
makes me.
was.
This part of the plan was always, and then we'll pretend to be Bowmore so we can get out of the estate. So you take this this magical foaming, and I'm saying magical because it's not like bicarb of soda or whatever. There is some element of like prestidigitation to this, and that blood. You watch all that blood just like lift up and form a little bubble. And then just vanishes as it like dissipates into the air, as it just returned to the area around. There's a little bit of a taste of pennies in the air as you all deal with this, and you see this decrepit old undead goes, "All right, I'll do my best, Bowman. Get out of my way, servants!" As you start to push him, do you head towards, ironically, the stairs?
I grab one last vial off of the shelf that has like the head of a dragon on the top of it, and it's like boiling molten red. And as we go through the doorway, I throw it in, it shatters, and it lights the place on fire. And then we go up.
You begin to hear, like, this fire immediately catches those 2 rooms. The one with those alchemical plants lights up quickly, spreads into the next room. You see a toad hops out that is, like, made of fire now that it has been exposed to fire. They're the equivalent, I can't remember the name of them. They're called, like, Grishinkas or something. They're these, like, little cat creatures that adapt to magic. They are sort of hopping around, riveting and making all kinds of noises. From down below, you hear, "Oh, heavens!" as that stone construct starts to walk up. It's just a game of does he have enough HP to get up the stairs before he dies from fire damage. As the stairs ka-shunk, 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 ka-shunk open ahead of you. Rickon, you basically just have to like pick the back of this wheelchair up. Thankfully, undead don't weigh a lot. And so it's not too hard to like jog up the space. Just beg the question of how we got him down here. As you come up, though, smoke billowing up out into the open air. You see another scene of absolute panic. You see that one of the water elementals has freed 3 others. And you see that there is now the assembled group of butlers and whatnot, many of whom are trying to catch them. They're not like full-size water elementals. They're trying to catch them in like pots with lids. That big like tanky one has one grabbed. He has found something inside of it that can be grappled and is like holding it by that. But the rest of its body is still loose, and so he's like trying to stuff it into a jar, but can't manage to. As the smoke starts to pour up, everybody begins to turn. The panic is still going. You are definitely still in a risky situation. Who does what next?
Quickly, this way! We have to get out of here, sir! I start dragging him dressed up as Bomar away.
Yeah, of course, of course. I think sway or command, right? Unless you had another pitch.
I think sway makes the most sense for sure, so I'll go with sway.
All right.
4.
4 on a sway. I think it works a little too well. You make your way up and you're like, come on, sir, and start to push this undead. Whew. And you know this is the payday. Your contract is fulfilled. You could leave right now, but this is the additional payday. And your hands are overtaken by that huge butler's, and the 4 is, he's like, you must get through, let them through, and like pushes people out of the way. And he starts pushing that undead and like takes it out of your hands. And so you're trailing behind him and he's not doing anything. But now he is with you. And the undead you can see is like starting to look over at you like, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? Sir, are you feeling all right? As he's like pushing him, he's like, I'm fine. You don't sound well. You sound like you inhaled smoke.
Listen, Butler, you've been, this whole place is a mess. You can't curry favor with him now. You should go in and clean it up. Then you'll get some sympathy from him, you know. And
Rickon's
I'll try
gonna
command roll.
All right,
Rickon's gonna help out by kicking that jar back open when he's not looking, so the elemental bursts back out. So there's a threat involved.
Okay. So Rickon, as you like stomp that jar that he left on the ground, it shatters, and that water elemental screams out, and you hear the undead go, "Yes, you've messed up my party!" Like just starts like saying random shit. He's like, "Am I talking too much? I don't know." Kirthon, go ahead and you can make that roll with an additional die, and Rickon, go take that one stress.
The luck is back. I got a 6.
A 6.
Yeah!
You see, he goes, I would this is so, I've never, oh no, as that water elemental gets free, you see he like, reaches out and grabs clearly like an ancient vase of like the people of Verdurin, this like clay pot, and is like trying to catch this water elemental in this 6,000-year-old vase. You hear the undead caster go, oh, he actually really shouldn't be doing that. As he looks and sees this like incredibly expensive vase. You manage to like shuffle up, push, get to the front door. As the wooden doors thunk thunk open, you push out into the street. And with that, you get away off into the night. As far as everybody else is concerned, some kind of truly strange incidents has come to pass here. As you vanish off, reports in the next few days. Well, actually on that note, let's take a look at the downtime sheet.
Yeah, let's see what that's about.
Number 1, payoff. You get 4 coin for the assassination of Arcanist Bowmore. He was a middling target and a dangerous one. Your lives were just definitely at stake. This wasn't like taking down, some random political nobody. This was a caster of some fame. And I will say you get an additional 2 coin for the delivery of the undead servant. You drop him off, and Roth, looking out at the two of you, has already heard about what happened, and more importantly, has heard about the state that Bowmore's body was in when he was found, and goes, thank you so much for working with me. I'd be happy to work with you at any time in the future that you need. As he, looks over, and you are dropping this undead off at Roth's house, and Roth kind of, looks at the numbers next to his house and looks back at you.
Just let us know when you need somebody taken care of. Like I said, a partnership that's beneficial is always better.
Yeah,
and then I turn.
Of course. Now, part 2 is heat. You gain 0 heat if it was smooth and quiet, low exposure. I don't think it was that.
There's an argument to be made.
2 heat if it was contained with standard exposure. Not so sure. Could be. You could make your argument. 4 heat, loud and chaotic, high exposure. That one sounds kind of good. And then finally, wild, devastating exposure. 6 heat. I think if you had burned the manor down, we'd be in 6 heat territory. I'm leaning towards 4.
I would argue that it's chiller than that, because it was really the only person who got a good eye on us was the one butler who saw his master alive, leaving the flames, and then it gets really confusing because his master was dead in the fire below. So the question sort of grows there. It was just one dude who got a good look at us.
Yeah, what do I do if it's not contained standard exposure or loud and chaotic high exposure? What do I do if it's loud and chaotic standard exposure? That's interesting.
Yeah.
Here's what
Can
I'll
we do
say.
3?
Can we do 3? I'll do 3
We can do
heat.
3.
Yeah.
All right, you gain 3 heat.
Yeah.
I think that's a good. I think we did a good. Listen, it's a little homebrewy. I like it. 3 heat for 6 coin. Not a bad gig. So in that case, in the next few days, it is framed in the press as a horrible accident. But security around some of the other mid-level archmages and mages in the city goes up in the weeks that follow, because this was quite the curious sort of for what it was for a accident. It certainly didn't look like one to the trained eye. With that, I think you guys return. Pockets heavy with coin. We have the rest of downtime we could get through, but alas, scheduling conflicts is a show of one-shots. So instead, I think we watch Rickon and Kerthunk starting to go about the work of building up their notoriety. Making the right bribes, making connection with Mercy again, maybe suggesting that with your recent feats, your relationship become a little more reciprocal, a little less one-sided, of her giving you things for exorbitant fees, and instead you maybe being a way for her to pass off jobs she doesn't want to do. Maybe her whole group doesn't want to do, trying to maybe ally yourself before you end up competition. In other circles, word begins to spread that the Arcaneum has been assaulted in this, and so people are out looking for whoever caused this situation. Maybe they don't all think they went there to kill Bowmore, but certainly somebody went in there to attack, to do destructive damage. And it doesn't help that some of the things found in Bowmore's secret abode were none too good for the Arcaneum to have been associated with, and there is some struggle as a part of that. And with that, I think tentatively, until the next time one of our shows gets canceled, we are going to bid this Scheduling Conflicts adventure a fair adieu. Thank you guys so much for playing. This was really fun. We're still definitely getting our feeding. Like I said, this is literally the second time I think we've ever played Blades in the Dark. We did, I think, better pulling up from the D&D mindset when it got locked in a little bit too hard, but I think it was kind of a blast. Thank you all so much for watching. You can catch 3 streams here on Foolhardy Press. They all start at 7:30 p.m. Unless we have something come up, like obviously we started a little late for this because we had to quickly read over the rules. We didn't know we were running it until 10 minutes before stream. On Sundays, you can catch Game Masters, Masters of Games, where Spencer, myself, and Michael, who couldn't make it tonight, play games that we've already mastered or we feel like we should master. On Mondays, you can normally catch The Party Makes Things Worse. That's our actual play stream, where right now we're playing through Dungeons & Dragons, a campaign called Song of the Reliquary, in the same world as this Blades in the Dark one-shot, although a couple thousand years later. And then on Tuesdays, so tomorrow, you can catch DM Writer's Room, where Spencer, myself, and Michael, who again could not make it, demystify the DMing process by coming up with monsters, magic items, one-page RPGs, and all kinds of fun stuff live, trying to loop you in a little bit to what it actually feels like to prep adventures or to do a little bit of game design without sort of resulting in a big article full of platitudes that don't actually help anybody. You can also check us out on YouTube and TikTok, where Spencer posts all kinds of great stuff. We've been having a lot of fun over there, and we have some exciting new things coming up. Little fun bits of lore and history about D&D, a little bit of advice every once in a while, which everybody takes super chill and normal.
They love to hear
They
advice.
love it super normal about getting normal amounts of advice over on YouTube. And then, of course, you can check us out on itch.io, where our first one-page RPG, The Last Thanksgiving, A Turkey-Tinged Tale of Vengeance, is available, and very soon, I think, you'll be able to play
soon.
Resonance, a mech RPG for 3 to 5 players learning to work together. 4 to 6 players, I think, right? 4 to 6? That game is super fun. We spent a long time coming up with it, and it was the longest playtest for a one-page we ever had. We had to play that game 3 times. So that definitely worked out. Check us out on DriveThruRPG, where you can catch our first adventure, The Lich's Dollhouse. That is a fun adventure for a level 1 party getting introduced to Dungeons & Dragons. I gotta record myself saying this so that we could just play that.
Just press play.
Doing it every time is cuckoo. Thank you all so much for watching. Unfortunately, the next time you catch scheduling conflicts, you'll need to ask the breeze. Whisper to the birds in the trees. To know that day, seek a seer on a high mountaintop. And who knows, maybe you will see Rickon and Kerthunk again, or one of our other lovable band of heroes that have wandered through the fair doors of scheduling conflicts. Thank you all so much for watching. We'll catch you on the next one. See you later. Peace out.
See ya.